Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So today we're going to be talking about the 2022 midterms yet again. Unlike the past couple of videos, this video is going to be a little bit more upbeat and positive, talking about why the wave becomes even more inevitable, talking about reasons why it is. And you could see this even in the polling averages, and we understand polls are not the most favorable to Republicans in recent years, but even in them, Republicans are leading the national popular vote for 2022 by 1.9%, and probably I'll explain why they're leading by a lot more than that, but we're going to get into 5 reasons in this video why the wave is even more inevitable now than it's really ever been. We're going to be looking at data points, metrics, etc. to explain why. But I have to tell you guys about shop.redeaglepolitics.com, our new merch store. We have a sale going on between now and Monday because it is Memorial Day. You can use the code MEMORIAL at checkout for an additional 20% off on all of this great merchandise. We have t-shirts. We have coffee mugs, we have decal quality stickers, we have tank tops, posters, sweatshirts, etc. All this great merchandise and more can be found. The link is in the pinned comment. Use code MEMORIAL for 20% off while supplies still last. So we're going to get into this and explain why it seems like the wave is inevitable. And there's 5 things I want to point to. And the first point is the primary turnout differential we've seen so far for the primaries. Now, I will say that primary models are not always the most accurate. However, we're seeing massive energy jumps on the Republican side, and we're not seeing it on the Democrat side. And in 2018, we kind of saw the opposite, even compared to 2016. So it kind of tells us where the energy factor is at a minimum. And this is data from Alabama and Arkansas. You see the Republicans jump up by 38% in both states or so on average from 2018. Democrat turnout, however, went up by just 1%. It stayed stagnant. We're seeing higher turnout every election cycle, but this time the higher turnout is coming from the Republican side. It's not coming from the Democrat side. And you could look down the list. Interactive Polls does a great job at analyzing this, and you could see the fact that compare the turnout from what we've seen in Texas. It's been up significantly. Ohio, North Carolina, 109% change there. The party registration Republicans are gaining. Pennsylvania, Nebraska, Idaho, just etc. Across the board, a 40% increase. Democrats, you've seen it be completely stagnant, maybe like a few percent here or there. But either way, the energy is huge. It's through the roof across a wide variety of states. We saw it in Georgia. The problem is sometimes the Republican primary voters, as we talked about a couple videos ago, are not voting for the candidates that they should be voting for, which is a sad thing. And we're going to be talking about that even more in the coming weeks, probably more so leading up to the August primaries where there is more to talk about. But either way, you see this in Georgia, Republican turnout up 80% from 2018, which is huge. And people are going to say, well, because the Republican primaries were more contested. And that's true to an extent. But the Republican primaries were also the more contested ones back in 2018 as well. And you still see this massive uptick in GOP turnout in a state that is turning hard to the left in many places, like the state of Georgia. So that should tell you everything you need to know about who has the energy factor. So number 2 would be the polls. Now, the polls currently show Republicans with just a minuscule 2% lead. However, when you remove the 2 Dem leading outliers from weak pollsters such as Politico Morning Consults and NPR, when you remove those from the equation, and when you add Trafalgar and Barris's poll, assuming when they come out into the mix, you're probably going to get Republicans up by an average of around 5% or so, which is huge because you're talking about this. And in 2010, at this point, Republicans had either they were down by a couple of points or they had a very minuscule lead as well. And that was a very big wave year for Republicans. They ended up picking off 60 plus seats in the House. They ended up picking up several Senate seats, and just a minuscule shift in the national environment, which again, according to these polls, with the outliers involved, taking them at face value, this would still be a national environment shift of approximately, I guess you would say, over 6 points to the right from wherever 2020 was. So you would see a massive amount of seats flip in the House, which would give Republicans the House, around 53, if not 54 seats in the Senate. And the wave keeps increasing, especially within the polls that we've seen, and there is no signs that it is slowing down. And also, typically, the polls that have Democrats up more, or the polls that have Republicans up by a lesser margin, are usually the polls that we've seen have a higher number of undecided. So do keep that in mind as well. And I guarantee you, when they start to screen for likely voters more, the lead will uptick significantly, because that takes the enthusiasm advantage into account. And as you saw through the primary data, the Republicans have a massive enthusiasm advantage. So beyond that point, we'll be moving on to reason number 3, which is Biden's approval is at a record low. And it is at minus 14.4 in RCP. That matches nearly his lowest point so far throughout his presidency, but also you look at his approval on the other issues. On immigration, minus 24.4%. On the economy, minus 25.2%. On foreign policy, minus 15%. And you look at the direction of the country polls, just 24% say it's on the right track, which again, you're coming out of a global pandemic. You would think that it'd be much higher because, we stopped the lockdowns, everything is open, etc. No, that is not the case. And 71% believe that the country is on the wrong track under the leadership of Biden, or as many boomers like to call it, Brandon, the Brandon administration. And Trump's approval rating, by the way, this time during his presidency was just minus 8.9%. And you saw Democrats in the midterms have a D plus 8.6% advantage in the national popular vote for the House. So taking all of this into consideration, that should really tell you something, by the way, that Biden is far worse off at this point in his presidency than Trump was in his presidency, and there's no signs that it's going to recover. More people grow angry at this administration every single day for good reason. I mean, you have to pay, even in Texas, you have to pay like $4.70 a gallon for gas. It's absolutely ridiculous, which does bring us to number 4, and that is Biden's failures are adding up. He has really nothing to show for his presidency, and voters are very angry because of these failures as a result. Looking at the issue of inflation, the inflation rate. When Biden took office, the inflation rate was relatively normal. However, a few months after his presidency, and he signed that one piece of legislation into law, you saw a little bit more of an uptick in inflation. And even though one could argue that Biden had enough time to fix the problem, it hasn't gotten better. And you see inflation nearing record highs of all time. Inflation rate of 8.5%. Oh, it went down to 8.3 in April. You're going to see massive celebrations because of that. Democrats are going to be like posting the very misleading graph because of it, the same thing they did for gas prices. And how long did that last, by the way? Gas went up significantly after that. So who knows what is going to happen with inflation. But either way, a lot of economic experts are saying that we're on the verge of a recession. This is very true. We very well could be. And it's only going to get worse from here, in my opinion, in regards to the economy. And this definitely hits a lot of voters in their pocketbooks. And when push comes to shove, a lot of these people are going to be voting with their pocketbooks, and they're not going to be voting to sustain the trifecta in Washington at this rate in any way, in any capacity. And you look at gas prices. Gas prices, you saw them when Biden took power. The gas was $2.42 a gallon. This was true. However, it kept going up, and it kept going up, and it kept going up, and then he mishandled the whole Ukraine thing. He's saying, no, we're going to sanction Russia, like that's going to solve any problem. It's not. It's actually going to just make Russia more self-sufficient. Russia's loving the sanctions right now. Look at their gas prices in Russia, by the way. Look at the gas prices in Belarus. But no, you have to jump on the Ukraine bandwagon, put America last, not willing to expand drilling at home, and what's going to happen? You see gas go from an already ridiculous amount of money to an even more ridiculous amount of money. Right now, it's on average over $4.20 a gallon, $4.21. That's actually down from $4.32. And even so, it's absolutely ridiculous that the average price for gas is over $4 a gallon. And I think it's actually gone up since then, at least from what I see on the ground here. And it's completely out of line. It's completely ridiculous what we're seeing in our country today. Border crossings. Oh, the border crisis. You think that Biden would actually kind of be getting it a little bit more under control right now, right? You would think that. But the answer is no. They haven't been. In fact, it's getting worse. You saw at the border in July of 2021, you saw a ridiculous amount of border crossings, 214,000. It actually dipped since then, believe it or not, but then it went back up again. We're seeing in 2022 alone, you could see this here in April, 234,000 apprehensions. That's a record of Biden's administration throughout the border crisis. It is getting worse. You're having hundreds of thousands of people every single month pour across the border. You saw almost 2 million do so in 2021 alone. So far, we're not even halfway through the year. This doesn't even count May. Just the first third of the year, you see 1.3 million people pouring across illegally under Biden's leadership. Biden went in there, rescinded the return in Mexico policy that Trump had installed. And then what happens? Boom. Everything goes out of control. And our country, we have an invasion at our southern border. We don't know who these people are. Yet Biden is more concerned about an invasion that's happening halfway across the globe between two second world countries. So that should tell you something. The American people know about this. It's not going to play out too well for the left at this rate, especially when you're looking at the fact that they're apathetic. But it's up to Republicans to not drop the ball on this issue and to actually focus on their strategy for 2022 being America First, which we're going to talk about in a video very shortly here, probably within the next week or so. But our last reason why the wave is inevitable, reason number 5, goes beyond the fundamentals, and that is even though Republicans do drop the ball with strategy, Democrats drop the ball as well. Again, apparently Pennsylvania's governorship, Josh Shapiro is supposedly this electoral juggernaut. He's running a campaign that is very akin to Terry McAuliffe so far, who lost Virginia. They don't understand. They think because you can tie your opponent to Donald Trump at a time where Donald Trump is probably one of the least unpopular major American political leaders because of everybody else in the picture. They think that tying somebody to Donald Trump is going to make them lose. They think this McHugh, insurrection, like just trying to throw all these labels, many of which don't even apply or are exaggerated, they think that's going to stick. And it doesn't stick. People care about the issues. If they're going to be calling people insurrectionists, if they're going to be talking about democracy, the average American voter is going to care about the fact that our border is being invaded, that our leaders care more about a conflict that we should have no business being involved in, and that they also care about their pocketbooks. They care about inflation. They care about gas prices. They care about their grocery bill, which is another thing. Everybody has to pay for food. People are angry at this leadership because of how much they're paying for food. You can make any excuses that you want to make. It's not going to matter. They do not stick, and you have to focus on the bread and butter of what's going on in our country, no pun intended, to win this election. And Democrats are not exactly shying away for Biden. They're going to be making excuses. They're going to be blaming everything on Trump, which doesn't add up, and the voters know it doesn't add up. And even when it comes to other issues like abortion, they might try to capitalize on Roe v. Wade, but the problem is, even if it does happen, will that energize them? You saw in Texas, in a Democrat primary, a very scandal-plagued pro-life Democrat running up against a further left Democrat who was running a very pro-choice campaign, pro-abortion campaign, where she was hitting Henry Cuellar for being pro-life, and it didn't work. It backfired. She got about the same percentage of the vote in the primary after the scandal drop with Cuellar in 2022 than she got in 2020. So that's not going to work. What card are they going to throw on the table now? Oh, gun control. That's another one. Democrats have lost the gun debate. They just have lost it completely to the right. And it shows. But beyond that point, that doesn't stop Beta O'Cuck from going out there and making an ass out of himself, interrupting Greg Abbott. And again, you think that this is going to win over voters? Like, you're getting booed by the parents of the victims of this shooting because Beto decided to go out there and politicize it for his gain, which again, can these things be politicized? Technically, they can, because you have to stop the problems. Guns are not going to stop the problems. A lot of the right-wing solutions could stop part of the problem. They could stop, maybe you could say, the amount of deaths if you have more armed guards. But the fact that we live in a society where we need armed guards in elementary schools is a massive problem, and we need to be fixing those problems first, in my opinion. So that's really what it comes down to. The right, when it comes to strategy, they don't exactly know what they're doing most of the time, which is what we will critique. But because the left is just so bad and they manage to outdo the right sometimes in terms of their stupidity when it comes to strategy, and them making excuses and doubling down for this joke of administration, it's pretty evident that Republicans are going to have an easy time in the midterms. It just really depends on how many good Republicans that we can actually get in there. We've had a mixed success this primary season, but the fundamentals are there. They're in the Republicans' favor. So we'll have to see what happens come November. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Make sure you like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. And make sure you check out the merch, the sale's going on. The link is in the pinned comment. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.